Hi there, it's Linzi Upton the Quilt Quine here, and the other day I made a little Quilt As You Go sample using the Bernina L890, and I did say that I might go back in later and quilt it. So I have done that with a chain stitch. So I'm just going to tell you roughly and quickly how I did that. So for starters, I selected the 2-thread chain stitch number 16. Now I have actually changed it slightly, as you do. Okay, so on the Bernina L890 I've selected a 2-thread chain stitch number 16. I'm going to change the stitch length from 3, which is the standard, all the way up to 4.5. I've also reduced the pressure foot lever on the top to the minimum, which is 1. And then I have decided that for my project, I was going to change the differential feed from, it's on 1 at the moment, I'm going to put it right down as far as it will go. So that is 0.7. So there we are, and I've made some adjustments. Now I've actually tested it out using a sample, and the great thing is that if you don't like what's happened on your sample with chain stitch, you can just rip it out. It's better to test things out on a sample than to make a commitment to your real project and then you might be left with little thread holes where you've pulled it out. So I was quite pleased with that. So I've decided that I'm going to save this 2-thread chain stitch into my favourites. So there's a little heart symbol here on the screen. And I'm going to say, yes, I want to do that. I have to make sure that I've clicked the little stitch selection. And then I'm just going to give it a name, which is going to be Quilt, Q-U-I-L-T space chain, Quilt chain. Where's the Quilt chain? That'll do. I'll be able to remember that the next time. And there are all my settings. Jolly good. Okay, now I'm ready to do a little bit of stitching on my sample piece. So remember that the straight stitch will be on the back of the project and the fancy chain stitch will be on the front. So I'm just going to run a few test stitches on my sample to check that those settings are going to work. I'm going to try not to go too fast because I don't need to. And I think you're less likely to pucker the fabric if you're going slowly. There is a possibility with this type of quilting that I could get some pleats and tucks because this is not an ordinary sewing machine with an integrated dual feed and I don't have a walking foot. So that is why I've decided to just tweak the settings, try it out on a sample and see if it looks good. My fabric may look a little bit wrinkly because I have had a few goes at ripping out the stitching because I wasn't altogether happy with it. Then I would adjust the settings and have another look. Right, let's just swing that round. So it's quite a big stitch, which I quite like. And on the other side, it's a fairly big chain stitch, which I rather like. So I think that works quite well. So once my quilted log cabin was covered in chain stitches, it looked like this. I would always recommend doing a sample first so that you don't ruin your real thing. Remember that you do the plain stitching from the reverse so that the fancy chain stitching shows on the correct side of the quilt.